Hello everyone, this is Riley Worstell with a complete guide to Google Sheets logical operators. So we have a little table of data over here with just an average of 4 tests for some names. So just imagine they're students or something, and then over here we have a list of our logical operators, and then I'm going to have examples, and then I'm going to show the formulas. So here to start off with, we have the AND operator. So as you can see here, we have and then B2 equals 1 and B1 equals test 1. So how this works is you type in the equals and then open brackets, and then anything you put in there for this value to be true, all of those values have to be true. So if I change this to a 99 and B2, well, we can see that B2 here is equal to 100. So even though B1 is still equal to test 1, B2 would be false, which would make the whole thing false. And we're going to go ahead and put color in here. So here's an example of false. So C2, which is 89 here, is equal to 2, and then test C1 is equal to test 1. So those both are wrong. But if we changed that there to test 2, which we actually have to change, we would have to change it here as well, you still get false because only one of the two values are true. Now if we come here to false, we're going to go ahead and just give color to this whole row here. So we have false here is an easy one to explain because it's literally just going to give you false every single time. So now we're going to move on to if. Go ahead and give it some black font there. And so for example 1 here we have if B2 is greater than B3, true, and if not, false. So for the if function here, the first parameter, so between the commas each one is considered a parameter. The first parameter is the logical expression. So our logical expression is B2 is greater than B3. So is 100 greater than 65? Obviously that's yes, and we get the true. If we flip that, we would get false. So if we come here for another example, if D2 is greater than D3, which it isn't, we get false because it isn't. Okay, so now let's move on to if error. So if error here, the first parameter is cell A, or the first parameter here is actually the cell in which you want to determine whether or not there's an error. And if there is an error, the second parameter is actually what would show up. But it's just going to be last name here because that's the value in A1 and there's no error. But here we have a logical expression 11 divided by 0, and that would obviously cause an error because you can't divide by 0. And again, you just get can't divide by 0 as your response. On to ifs. So let's give that some color back. So in ifs, you do a logical expression, and then if that logical expression is 2, then the value. Another logical expression, if that's true, then the value. So for this one here, we have if B2 is greater than C2, so if B2 is greater than C2, then it's test 1. And if C2, or B2, C2, so if C2 is greater than B2, then test 2. And obviously we get test 1 here because he did better on test 1. So now we're going to move on to the not operator. Okay, so for the not operator here, we have not true. So we are returning the opposite of true because the not is going to always return the opposite of your parameter. And since it's a Boolean, and Boolean values have true or false, or often in programming, it's like 1 is true or 0 is false, on, off, all these are related to Boolean values. And then over here we have not 0, so just think of 0 as false. Then you get true, you just get the value true. So for OR here, we have OR B2 equals 100 or C2 is greater than 90. So this is similar to the and we needed all the parameters to be true to get a true value. And remember, if only one of those if one of those parameters resulted in a false, we would get false. With OR, it's kind of the opposite. If all of the parameters are true, then we'll get a true. And if one of them is true, then we'll get a true. So as you can see, B2 is equal to 100 and C2 is greater than 90. Well, that's not true, but the first parameter was true, so we still get a true value. And to get a false value here, we would have to say two false parameters, so D2 is equal to 100, and we can obviously see that it is not, and then E2 is greater than 90, which, again, that is not, so we get the expected value. Under the switch function, we have the formula switch, and then you have cell B2 as your first parameter, and then you have like your case. So the case is if B2 is 100 is a way to think about that. Then you'll get the value yes. If B2, so 2 as your second parameter, is so if your value B2 is equal to 2, then no. And then as a default, so if it's neither of those things, we're going to get neither. And as you can see, we get yes because B2 is in fact 100. And if you come over here to example 2, we have D2, which is equal to 47. So we do the same cases. So a case if it's 100, it's yes. A case if it's 2, it's no. And then if not, neither. And as you can see, we got neither because it is neither of those cases. But let's say the case was 47, and we would get no. And I hope that makes sense to you, that that is a case, and that's also the value that's right there. It's 47. And lastly, for the switch logical operator, or for the true logical operator. So we just have equals true. Just like up here in false, it's just the opposite. It's always going to equal the value true for that formula. That is helpful for when you're dealing with Boolean values. Thank you.